Hey, what's up guys? BJ Dell back with an all-new weekly art challenge review video. If you guys aren't familiar with the series, basically every Wednesday I give you guys a challenge word for the week. You draw a design based on that word and then post them over on Facebook in the Keep Creating group, which I'll put the link in the description below. And then I do one of these videos the following Wednesday. So you got from Wednesday to Wednesday to do it. This last week's word was urban legend. This one was a fun one, especially this video's a little bit different, runs a little bit longer because it's not just about the drawings this time. It's almost like a lore type video podcast as well, because we're going to talk about the background and history behind these urban legends too. So if you like creepy stuff, you like conspiracy theories, and you like artwork, keep watching. Alright guys, let's go ahead and jump into the video today, all about urban legends, and the first one up is from Steve, and this was actually Steve's first post over in the Keep Creating, the Learn, Draw, Share art community group. So number one, Steve, welcome to the group, and thanks so much for putting yourself out there and posting your first design. Really enjoyed seeing this one, and Steve went with the Bunny Man, and Steve had posted in the group. He was, to be honest, had to look up an urban legend, and this one kind of stood out to him, so he wasn't sure what to choose. Went through and found this one. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Bunny Man is an urban legend that originated from two different incidents in Fairfax County, Virginia in 1970. Well, it's been kind of spread throughout the Washington, D.C. area. Legend has many variations, but most involved a man wearing a rabbit costume who attacks people with an axe or a hatchet. Most of the stories occur around Colchester Overpass, Southern Railway overpass spanning Colchester Road near Clifton, Virginia, sometimes referred to as Bunny Man Bridge. And I think a lot of times too, with urban legends, there's so many different urban legends that revolve around a bridge. I know when I was growing up in Indiana, we had, a bridge there that supposedly, a mother lost a baby off of, and in Ohio, there's another bridge that has the same story. So bridges, I think, play a big role in some of these urban legends. With this one, then, there's different versions of the legend that vary in the Bunny Man's name, motives, weapons, victims, description of the bunny costume or lack thereof, and sometimes even his possible death. In some accounts, victims' bodies are mutilated, and in some variations, the Bunny Man's ghost or aging specter is said to come out of his place of death each year on Halloween to commemorate his passing. So, obviously, a guy wearing a bunny outfit, wielding an axe, and I think you knocked it out of the park on this. I mean, you can't do much better than this. I think the design itself is really, really cool. I know somebody in the group had questioned and said, hey, are you going to color this in? And honestly, I think there's absolutely no reason to do any further coloring on this. I think this is perfect. I like the white background that goes into the gray here, that goes then directly into the white of the rabbit costume, and then of course, having this red blood down here just kind of offsets everything, gives it a splash of color that obviously the blood is the thing that's going to catch your attention, and I think that's done really well. I think adding anything extra to this would actually kind of take away from that minimalist feeling that works so well with the design. So I say leave it as is. I love it. The thing that really sticks out too is the use of line weight here is just absolutely phenomenal. So I talked a lot in previous videos, even did a video completely about line weight, and this really kind of shows the ideas that I was trying to bring home in those videos. You'll see here the outlines for everything, super thick and nice around like this bottom ground part going up into the little blades of grass or plants here, same thing with the rock. But then the little details in here, you'll see lines are a lot thinner, a lot smaller, lighter line weight, and it just makes everything pop really well. Same thing once you get up into the rabbit itself, all these little specks and some of the lines here that make up the rest of the inside just have, a lower line weight than the outside lines, and it just makes everything really pop, really stand out, and it's done really, really well. So thanks so much for sharing that this week, Steve. And next up is Warwick, and Warwick's urban legend is of the Black Dog. And for anybody that doesn't know this one, the Black Dog is a spectral or demonic entity found primarily in the folklore of the British Isles. The Black Dog is essentially a nocturnal apparition, in some cases a shapeshifter, and is often said to be associated with the devil or described as a ghost or hellhound. Its appearance was regarded as a portent of death and is generally supposed to be larger than a normal dog and often has large glowing eyes. Sometimes it's associated with electrical storms and is also associated with the crossroads, places of execution, and ancient pathways. And I'm not sure if I said this at the beginning. Most of these descriptions, I'm getting these off of Wikipedia. So if you want to look these up for yourself and read more about them, feel free to do that as well. So based on that description, I think Warwick just really knocked this one out of the park. Super, super great. I love the overall feel of the design and the color palette that was used. It's very dark, but at the same time, has this bright glowing effect from the flame coming out of this torch, which I think is really, really well done. I also like the character here that represents, the human figure. I like how there's not a lot of detail. It's just very basic. It almost has that kind of primitive folklore art style to it, and I think that works really well with the design. One of the reasons why I picked this week is just because of the use of highlights in this is so well done. You've got the flame coming off the torch here, and you can see the different kind of levels of highlighting that Warwick used across this. We've got a really kind of bright highlight here coming around the front of the wolf and down here where this flame basically is. And then there's, of course, other highlights that range throughout, but you can see these are more subdued. They're not as bright as this is down here. Same thing, on this backside here. There's some lighting that this torch is giving off, but obviously it's not nearly as bright or, as just loud as what is going on right here, and that's done really masterfully in this one, and I think it looks fantastic. I also like just the textures that's used throughout the design here in the back, kind of this splatter paint pointillism type of look. I think that works really well to kind of frame everything. Of course, if you had this black dog against a black background, you're not going to see anything, so I think that was a really wise design choice to make that dog pop out, and I think it just works really, really well for the design. So thanks so much for posting that one this week, Warwick. Next up is Maria, and Maria did the Kentucky Goblin. She didn't say much about the actual design itself, just Kentucky Goblin, and posted it on Facebook, and then also emailed it to me, which I was going to bring up too. If you guys don't have Facebook and can't join the group, obviously Facebook's free, but some people hate Facebook, and I understand. That's not a problem. You can also tag me in any of these designs for the design challenges on Instagram or Twitter at BJDell, or if you just hop on over to the website, bjdell.com, I've got my contact form over there. You can actually email me the designs too. I really like people to post them in the group just because you get feedback from the community. So it is a really cool place to post your work. But if you just want to get them to me to possibly see them featured in this video going forward, feel free to do that as well. So the Kentucky Goblin actually originated, it's called the Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter, or the I can't talk today, Hopkinsville Goblin case. So it was a claimed close encounter with an extraterrestrial being or beings in 1955 near Kelly and Hopkinsville in Christian County, Kentucky. UFOologists regard it as one of the most significant and well-documented cases in the history of UFO incidents, while skeptics say the reports were due to the effects of excitement and misidentification of natural phenomena such as meteors and owls. Yes, owls. We'll get to that here in a second. The United States Air Force classified the alleged incident as a hoax in the Project Blue Book files. So, on the evening of August 21st, 1955, 5 adults and 7 children arrived at the Hopkinsville police station claiming that small alien creatures from a spaceship were attacking their farmhouse, and they had been holding them off with gunfire for nearly 4 hours. 2 of the adults claimed that they had been shooting at 12 to 15 short, dark figures who repeatedly popped up at the doorway or peered into the window. Concerned about a possible gun battle between local citizens, 4 city police, 5 state troopers, 3 deputy sheriffs, and 4 military police from the nearby U.S. Army Fort Campbell drove down to the Sutton farmhouse located near the town of Kelly in Christian County. And this search yielded nothing apart from evidence of gunfire and holes in the windows and door screens made by the firearms. So the explanations then later were that these little aliens, or goblins as they were called, they claimed to see were actually just misidentified as eagle owls or great horned owls, which are nocturnal, fly silently, have yellow eyes, and aggressively defend their nests. So the explanation was that many of the adults at the house were intoxicated, and these were just nothing more than owls attacking the house. And I can tell you what, if I had $1 for every time that I was intoxicated and owls attacked my house, I would be a rich man, because, I mean, of course, that happens all the time. So the kind of cool thing about this was the press coverage on this. When it kind of took off, the articles referred to the little goblins as little green men, and that's kind of where the term spread in pop culture. So little green men had always kind of been something in sci-fi, and the sci-fi community, especially then, was kind of small in the 50s, and it wasn't huge. And then all these different papers started running with the quote little green men, and that's kind of where everything took off from there. So another fun fact about this for any of the video game geeks out there: the Pokemon named Sableye, which was introduced in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, is actually based on the goblins described in the encounter. In these games, they are animated with a swing or waiting motion based on the creature's reported gait. So there you go, the more you know. And let's get to Maria's design now. And this one, I really, really like the background here. I like it's... And I think, yeah, it's pulling up here because I've got this black down here. Like, it's not a solid black. She went with this kind of midnight blue color. It's almost too black, but not quite. And I think my favorite thing about this design is the silhouette that's going on here in the background of the wood here, giving the kind of lines and texture for, if this is a barn or the house or what have you, but you can kind of see the way that this is done. And I love that, the lines aren't 100% perfect up and down. They're not the exact same line, just repeated. I like that kind of loose, natural feel to it. And the way that, the cross beams are used here just kind of frames everything out. And then, of course, you've got the guy in the doorway, which is really cool, just silhouetted against that red door. I think that makes it really pop, and it kind of frames everything out against the goblin here in the center. I love the eyes, the glowing eyes. You've got, that kind of coming out with the opacity here. I think that's really well done. And of course, his cute little chicken leg here that he's eating is really, really cool. The stance is nice too. He's kind of hanging on to this beam here. And of course, the same kind of silhouettes here used up here for the wood, I think is really good as well. If there's anything that I would change about this, is I like the kind of style that you used here in the hands and the feet. You've kind of got this angular style, which I just posted the how to draw feet and shoes, and I talked about kind of using angular styles in that. And the one thing I probably would have done here is on the side here with the hand holding the chicken leg, I would have gone ahead and kind of made sure to use that same angular style. You see these are kind of squared off, and squared off here. You've got a round part here going into a nice angle, and these just have a really kind of curve to every single part of the hand. So I would have probably gone in, and let's get a different pen here. Just kind of made these, I don't even know if that's going to show up. Let's get a white. Made these a little bit more angled, just to kind of use that same style, just because all three of these match up really well, and this one just doesn't look like the same hand as the person that drew, the feet and the hands down here. So changing that up, and the same thing here, just keeping that angled. You can have the curve here, but angled back here, just like you used, on this finger over here, just kind of keeping that same style. And then I'm not sure over here if the nail's supposed to be here or if this is like tucked in underneath, but it looks like it's probably supposed to have a nail here and here that you maybe just forgot. And then this one you kind of filled in. These don't look as dark. They do a little bit just because you have the shadow, but I would go ahead and just darken these in, or maybe even make this one lighter to kind of break the nails up from the rest of the fingers or the toes. But an overall fantastic job. And this one actually popped up, Kentucky Goblins popped up recently in the past few years. I think initially back in like 2012 there was a sighting also in Kentucky. It was called Hellier. And then this year there was a new kind of documentary series that came out. I think it was on YouTube. Me and my wife watched it initially. I think it was either on YouTube or Amazon, called Hellier. And it was a documentary series about these filmmakers who had a ghost hunting team before, and somebody had reached out to them that lived in Hellier, and they said that these same Kentucky Goblins were coming out of a mine shaft there on their property, and they did a whole kind of documentary series to kind of go down and interview this guy and talk to him. And of course, when they got down there, could not find the guy. Nobody had heard of him, and it was this pretty cool documentary series. So check that out. It's Hellier, and like I said, it's on either Amazon or YouTube, one of the two. All right, so thanks for posting that one this week, Maria. Next one up is Jessica, and Jessica went with the Mothman. And I know we had talked about the Mothman before, I think, in the group, and absolutely love the Mothman. If you guys don't know the Mothman, I'll kind of go into some of the backstory here. So Mothman kind of started in West Virginia. It's a creature that was reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant area from November 12th, 1966 to December 15th, 1967. The first newspaper report was published in the Point Pleasant Register dated November 16th, 1966, titled "Couples See Man-Sized Bird Creature Something." The press soon picked up the reports and helped spread the story across the United States. Then the Mothman was later introduced to a wider audience, popularized by John Keel in his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, claiming that there was supernatural events leading up to the sightings and a connection to the collapse of the Silver Bridge, which was also in Point Pleasant. And some of you guys might know the Mothman Prophecies not from the book, but from the movie, because back in 2002 then, the Mothman Prophecies book was turned into a movie starring Richard Gere based on Keel's book. And I'm surprised, like, once people saw the Mothman, didn't start drawing the lines from the Mothman to Mothman Prophecies to Richard Gere. So I'm kind of glad that nobody did that. Nobody posted any designs based on the Richard Gere urban legend. I won't go over that in this video, but I didn't see those in the group this week, so I guess that was a plus. I don't know. But anyways, the Mothman was seen in Point Pleasant for weeks and weeks leading up to the collapse of the Silver Bridge. Claimed 46 people. The incident gave rise to the legend and connected the Mothman sightings to the bridge collapse. So basically the whole idea, and this is, I'm paraphrasing, not going over this, but the Mothman basically is seen leading up to disastrous events. It's kind of the precursor or the harbinger of death, and it's there to kind of bring news of something bad happening. So the Mothman, I love. I'm not even sure the first time I heard about the Mothman. It's been years and years and years and years and years ago. I know Paranormal State did a show on it. They brought, I think it was Chip Coffee, they brought there and did a show at Point Pleasant. My wife actually and I, we went to Point Pleasant. We were traveling on that side of the States and went through West Virginia, and I was like, you know what, I think we're kind of close to Point Pleasant. So looked it up, and it was honestly like 20 minutes out of our way. So we ended up driving over to Point Pleasant, and honestly, it was kind of life-changing. I know that sounds crazy, but Point Pleasant is a really cool little town. Number one, they've got this Mothman thing going for them. They embrace it. There's a huge Mothman statue in the middle of the town. There's a Mothman museum with props from the movie and just all this history based around the Mothman. And they even have a festival every year that draws like thousands and thousands of people, and the town itself is just really cool. So ever since my wife and I went there years and years ago, we actually talked about, that's kind of like bucket list. Some people, when they, retire, they want to move to Florida, or let's move to Hawaii or Colorado or wherever. And honestly, we've always talked like we want to move to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, just because we were so kind of impressed and enchanted with the town. So that might be something in the future. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. But now to Jessica's design. I really like this. It's dark. It works for the Mothman just because the Mothman is kind of so mysterious and ominous and everything else, and I think this works really well. I love how the moon is done up here and gives off a nice glow around that. That is fantastic. And since this is so black too, you can see how dirty my screen is. Oh my goodness. Horrible. And the way the moon glows off of the Mothman is really nice. I love that you didn't really try to define the overall shape. The highlights here just kind of give the hint of the wings coming off. You got the highlight here around the head, and then of course the bright glowing eyes with just hints of a highlight here on the shoulder, since this one's closer to the moon, and just a really kind of tiny subtle one over here. And I just think it's really good. It's ominous. It just screams Mothman, and I think it's really well done. So thanks so much for posting that, Jessica. And I know there was a few different Mothman ones this week, so I think that one's probably one of the most popular ones. Next up is Dawn, and Dawn went with Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and I don't think this one really needs any introduction, but you know what? I don't care. I'm going through each and every one of these this week and doing the backstory. So in North America folklore, Bigfoot or Sasquatch was said to be a hairy, upright, walking ape-like creature that dwells in the wilderness and leaves footprints. Depictions often portray them as a missing link between humans and human ancestors or other great apes. They're strongly associated with the Pacific Northwest, particularly Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. To be honest, I've always wanted to move to the Pacific Northwest too, just because Twin Peaks made me fall in love with the Pacific Northwest. Twin Peaks, one of my top 5 shows of all time. I just love it so much. Individuals claim to see the creatures across North America. Over the years, these creatures have inspired numerous commercial ventures and hoaxes. The plural nouns of Bigfoots and Big Feet are both acceptable. Folklorists trace the figure of Bigfoot to a combination of factors and sources, including folklore surrounding the European wild man figure, folk belief among Native Americans and loggers, and a cultural increase in environmental concerns. So the majority of mainstream scientists, of course, historically discounted the existence of Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot was in the news just the other day. There's 9 million different Bigfoot shows on TV, but some guy that follows Bigfoot and has this whole thing, around Bigfoot actually supposedly took video. I watched the video the other day. Wasn't impressed. Even if you have a really bad cell phone camera, what was on the TV should have looked better than that. So you couldn't even tell what it was, or if it was even a creature, or you couldn't even tell if it could have been a bear. You couldn't even see what it was. So I'll let you guys look that up and make the decision for yourself. But I think Don did a great job with this. Obviously, the Bigfoot creature, absolutely huge, and I think you knocked that out of the park as far as, size difference between him and this little guy he's chasing. The guy he's chasing, I absolutely love. It's just a really hilarious looking character. I love the hat, and, you've got the sweat coming out of him. I think that looks really good. And just like I said, the overall size comparison is great. It makes him seem really imposing, and of course, this little guy here is going to be scared of this big monster behind him. A couple things here. I don't know, and if I'm wrong or if I'm seeing this right, or I don't know. The cloud here of dust, I'm not sure if that's like I'm running fast and it's like the cloud of dust he's leaving behind from running fast. The way it comes out, it kind of looks like maybe he's farting a little bit. So maybe he, you're insinuating that he's kind of crapping his pants because he's so scared. If so, I would leave it there. If not, I think it looks like a fart. So if you are doing kind of like the running clouds, I would probably get rid of that and just kind of, we'll switch this to black. I would just move those down behind his feet so that those are down there, and you can put another one back here so each foot kind of has it. I think it kind of brings home that idea a little bit better. But like I said, if you're going for the fart look, I would stick with it. It's up to you. The other thing too is the circle shadow here. I'm not a big fan of the circle shadow, especially when you've got like a huge hulking creature like that and you've got a lot going on. If you've got like a stationary still figure, sometimes it's easy to get away with the, the circle shadow. Here, I would either, just bring the shadow completely to the edge like this and just make this entire thing in an angle, a shadow like so. I just think it reads a little bit better. Either that, or if you just kind of want to just loosely kind of make some lines here to make it look like he's kind of giving it off. You don't have to make it 100%, perfect, but just so it's got like a little shape to it. and it's just not a perfect circle going around there. I just think that looks a little bit better. The other thing too would be the hands here. Not a big fan of the hands, and I know sometimes hands are hard to draw. And if you're not sure as far as drawing hands, just take a picture. If you've got your cell phone out, take a picture of your hands in different poses to kind of get the feel of how the hand is shaped and supposed to look. With these, the way that the fingers and the thumbs are drawn, it really looks like he's just kind of doing this. And I think you kind of want to go for more of this look. You're looking for the I'm going to get you chasing look. And like I said, it just looks like they're kind of closed in, and I can't even really do it with my hand. That's how unnatural it looks. It just looks like really weird. So with that, I would kind of, drop the opacity on this here. Like I said, take the picture of your hand to get it in the right position to kind of get a feel for it. But the kind of idea here would be to, get the fingers to come down and around like this. So they kind of splay out a little bit, and they're more that menacing look that you're going for here. And then same thing with the thumb here, having it come out like this, this thumb here coming out and around, just so that the fingers kind of come in and out from the palm here like that. So it's more of a look than just this kind of flat, the thumb, pressed down, and these kind of pressed down as well. You just kind of need that more kind of overlapping apart from each other look to make it a little bit more believable instead of having it just smushed down like that. And I think that would do a lot to kind of bring home the idea too that he's menacing and he's chasing, he's kind of doing that reach for him. So, but otherwise a fantastic job. Shadows, colors, and everything are really, really great on this. So thanks so much for sharing that this week, Don. Love seeing your work. Next up is Jose, and Jose gave a super detailed description of this one. So Jose's, I'm just going to read straight from his post because he went all out, and he's going to say it probably better than looking it up on Wikipedia. So Jose says, in our culture, there's something we call the El Cadejo. This is an evil black dog who will appear on the road. Back in time, our people used to walk a lot of long distances. It will get between one's legs, and then it will grow and take the person away. He or she will never be seen again. Though this is the counterpart, there's also a Cadejo Blanco, the good one, who, still looking evil, will defend you from the Cadejo Negro. Here is my take on the urban legend challenge. Behold, El Cadejo Blanco. So this one is really, really great. I love, number one, the story, and bringing it from your culture and everything else is super cool. And that's one of the things when we talked about doing this and got ideas from the Patreon people, that was one of the first things brought up is, hey, it's going to be cool to see all these different urban legends from around the world, since we have so many people in so many different parts of the world now. And I really loved reading the backgrounds to that. So thanks so much for taking the time to kind of include that too, kind of made this even more personal. And I think the design is really, really great. The overall kind of quality here, you got this kind of dream state ethereal quality, like the previous one that Warwick did. But I think this one works with the clouds too. It just has that really, really great dreamy feel to it. You've got the different layers of clouds too, so it's not just, one flat thing here. The clouds are heavier down here. You've got them lighter up here, which I think is really good, and then, trails off into this jet black over here on the side, which is nice. The wolf itself, I think the design is fantastic. The building out the wolf looks really good. And just, I didn't look this one up just because you did such an awesome job explaining it, but just like the overall feel and the way that you did the wolf here, you've kind of got, and I'm not even sure how to describe it, if it's like the bone and tendon structure. To me, it almost kind of has like a biomech tattoo feel to it, which is really cool. But I just love the way that everything's built up down here and wraps around, but then you still have the fur up here, so it ties the two in. So you've got this very like natural quality, but then you've also have this kind of superhuman biomech quality down here, and I think it's really cool. It's very interesting. The snout as it comes down here almost has like a dragon feel to it, which I think is really cool. And just kind of building these up and the use of shadows and highlights to define each individual piece, I think is really well done. So fantastic job this week, Jose. Thanks for so much for submitting that. And last but not least, we have Mark. And Mark went with Bloody Mary, and Mark wanted to go for humor. And I think you killed it. I laughed at this one, and this one is really good. So, of course, it doesn't apply to this, but let's go ahead and go over it. Bloody Mary, folklore legend consisting of a ghost, phantom, or spirit conjured to reveal the future. She is said to appear in a mirror when her name is chanted repeatedly. The Bloody Mary apparition may be benign or malevolent, depending on historic variations of the legend. Bloody Mary appearances are mostly witnessed in group participation play. And it's kind of weird. It says that she channels the future, or how do they say that? To reveal the future. I never really heard that. Growing up, she was just supposed to jump out of the mirror and get you, is, kind of the part that I always heard. But they said, this is most witnessed in group participation plays. So this is big. I'm sure in different parts of the world, but really in the U.S. is you have sleepovers and dare each other to do the Bloody Mary chant in the bathroom mirror when it's dark. And of course, Mark went with the Bloody Mary drink, and I love it. It's so funny. Really, really cute idea. Bloody Marys, not a regular drinker of Bloody Marys, but Bloody Marys are the number one drink to drink at an airport if you've got an early morning flight. I've drank more Bloody Marys in airport bars in the morning hours before 9 o'clock than I ever have like outside of an airport. It's just like the perfect pre-flight drink, and I don't know, I just love them. It's like my ritual when I fly. So Mark's just overall design here is great. I love the texture of everything. It just pops. I like having it perfectly centered. A lot of times in artwork, you don't want stuff perfectly centered. You want to use, the 3/4 rule or whatever to kind of offset it. Same thing with photography, and just kind of have a different feel to the design to not center it and make it too boring. And this one, I think it works perfectly. Everything is just really centered, really symmetrical, and it is awesome. I love too, the coloring used is, I can't do this because I'm so OCD about stuff, and growing up coloring, I entered so many coloring contests as a kid that I won because I always stayed in the lines and everything else. So seeing somebody able to do this and kind of color in like here, and you see some of the blue comes out here and it's sloppy, but it looks perfect. It looks good. This is a very kind of greeting card-esque design. I would, walk down an aisle at any Hallmark store and not be surprised to see this sitting on a greeting card. And especially for Halloween, you could tie this in on the inside with a really cute saying for Halloween greeting cards, and I think you killed it with this. So fantastic job. Not a single thing I would change on this. I love just the loose feel of everything, and even the highlights down here on the sink, how those are kind of sketchy, and the way that the tiles come in here too. The fact that, let's throw a line here and then we got another line here. The fact that, these aren't even just perfect lines coming up and down. That just really makes the design come alive, and it's just brings your eyes in, and really looks great. So thanks so much for sharing that, Mark. And that's it for this week. Thanks to everyone that shared designs. All right, guys, that's it for this week's video. As always, thank you for watching, and a special thank you to everyone that submitted designs this week. As the group keeps on growing, keeps getting bigger, we keep seeing more and more fantastic art week in and week out, and I love each and every one of you guys, so keep up the great work. If you like today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. And going forward, last week's word was urban legend, and I know there was a lot of people that submitted stuff 2 weeks ago for giraffe. And somebody in the group had said they would like to see hippo. They thought hippo would be cool. And I thought, since everybody loved giraffe so much, how about we do hippo for this week? So hippopotamus is your word. Get on it. Let's see what you guys can do. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.